Israel has long been a leader in fighting eating disorders among women and especially fashion models. In 2013, Israel passed a historical law to fight eating disorders in the fashion world by requiring that models have a body mass index of at least 18.5. Now it looks like Israel has inspired the United States because officials in California are about to pass a similar law. California has introduced a new law aimed at reducing eating disorders among models, and it just cleared its first legislative hurdle on Wednesday. According to the law, fashion models who want to work in California would need a doctor to attest that they're of healthy weight and that they're not suffering from an eating disorder. Plus, it would require the state to not only develop health standards for models, but also regard them as employees of the brands they represent.
This gives fashion models all the protections available to workers in California. This includes workers' compensation, unemployment insurance, disability insurance, and protections against harassment and discrimination.
Eating disorders like anorexia nervosa are all too common among models around the world, many of whom are constantly pressured to lose weight or lose their jobs.
The modeling industry is poorly regulated. During my career, I encountered bullying from agents and other professionals, and there was the sexual harassment, rape, and I was exposed to enormous amounts of drugs and alcohol, had payments withheld beyond the legal periods or was never paid at all, and was pressured to lose so much weight that I eventually developed anorexia nervosa and had to exit the industry due to my illness in 2012.
Israel has been ahead of the curve when it comes to fighting eating disorders in the fashion world. In March 2012, Israeli lawmakers adopted legislation to require models to have a body mass index of at least 18.5, or forfeit a career in the fashion industry. The law also came to be known as the Photoshop law internationally, because it demands brands to make a special note on their ads if any computer-generated changes have been made to make models look thinner. Although the law targets all adults, it's clearly aimed at female models, since eating disorders mostly affect young women.
In what is ostensibly an unregulated industry, pressures to engage in risky behavior are all too real. And by risky behavior, I mean starvation dieting, forfeiting compulsory schooling, and giving in to sexual demands from powerful male agents and clients. For many young models working today, bowing to these pressures can feel less like a choice than a prerequisite for employment.
The well-known Israeli Photoshop law was passed after Israeli fashion photographer Adi Barkan was inspired to initiate the legislation. His motivation came from Hila El-Maliach, an anorexic friend and model who weighed just 60 pounds when she died in 2007. Her tragic death led a massive campaign against the fashion industry to regulate the health of models. And since then, models around the world have started to speak out about the harsh realities of the industry.
This impossible to maintain diet continued when I worked in Tokyo, Japan at 16. There, my only fuel for upwards of a 22-hour day was a hard-boiled egg and plain yogurt. It was impossible to maintain this diet, but my agency continued to place pressure on me to maintain my slim physique. Eventually, though, my body gave in. One day in particular, after sleeping for only 3 hours, I fainted on set.
It looks like Israel's hard work to protect female models has had an impact on the rest of the world. Last spring, France banned excessive thinness among models, and countries like Italy and Spain now rely on voluntary codes of conduct to protect models. California is just the next state to get on board. And if the state's new law passes, it has the potential to help many of the 40% of fashion models who suffer from eating disorders.